Hello everybody and welcome back to another PGA Tour 2K21 video. In today's video, we are going to be going over the overall game mechanics of PGA Tour 2K21. I'm going to go over what I like. I'm going to go over what I don't like or have feedback on as well. I honestly don't know how long this is going to go. I mean, there have been so many changes to the game that this could go on a little bit long, and if it does, my apologies for that. But there is just so much to talk about when it comes to the overall game mechanics of this game, just because of how much they have changed from 2019 to now. So the first thing I want to go over today is the actual difficulty settings. I touched on them and kind of told you what all of them were about in my first preview video. But now that I've had some time to go through, test them all, play on them all, I just want to give you my thoughts and feedback on each swing difficulty. So starting with beginner, this is by far the easiest, and really, if you want to just go out and hit perfect shots nonstop, then this is what you want to start with. As you can see, beginner difficulty, like that's your swing plane. I mean, you'd really have to, like mess it up in order to hit a bad shot. Like, I mean, you know, there's that. If I do like a 7-1 kind of shot, you can definitely do it. I mean, you'll some people, like if you're not that great at controlling with your thumb, I mean, you will have problems. But overall, beginner difficulty, we have never seen anything like beginner difficulty, but there it is. From here on up, these are pretty much what you get in the Golf Club 2019 now. I would say amateur plays best to what you get now with beginner clubs in 2019. It's very lenient in the form of swing plane. It's very lenient in the form of your tempo. This is probably what we would get now with beginner clubs. The only thing is the tempo side. This is probably the tempo that you would get with pro clubs. The tempo has been really dialed in to make the game a little bit more difficult. But when it comes to the swing plane, this is probably closest to what you'd get beginner. Just for overall difficulty, this is probably your beginner setting in 2019. Now, if you play on beginner clubs, this would probably be where you'd want to start your time with PGA Tour 2K21. Continuing to go right up, Pro-Am. Pro-Am's pretty much what you'd get with pro clubs now in 2019. When it comes to the swing plane, at least. The tempo is, again, it's a little bit more dialed in and harder to get a perfect. Even on Pro-Am, it's a little bit harder to get a perfect. But the swing plane and just the overall forgiveness of Pro-Am is probably what you would get with pro clubs on 2019. So if you're used to playing on pro clubs, Pro-Am would probably be a good place for you to start while you're learning the mechanics. Maybe drop it down to amateur if you'd like. But I think that this is a good place to start as the Pro-Am. And after 30-ish hours on this game, this is probably going to be crazy to even say, but Master Clubs now in 2019, PGA Tour 2019, Golf Club 2019, whatever you want to call it. Pro difficulty in 2K21 is probably the most comparable to Master Clubs now. The swing plane is a little bit smaller, so it is a little less forgiving. And the tempo is also smaller, but that's just because it has been shrank across all difficulties. But I would say probably Pro plays the closest to Master Clubs. On Pro difficulty, now that I have some time in it, I can shoot 6, 7, 8 under rounds on Pro clubs. I still have some problems with my tempo just because it has been dialed in so much. But given some time with the game, more time with the game, and that's even wild to say. I mean, I've put 30 hours into it, and I still need more time into the game to get better. But I would say that this plays the closest to Master Clubs. Now, if this plays the closest to Master Clubs, then what the heck about Master and Legendary difficulty? Master and Legendary difficulty, or Legend difficulty, they are no joke. It is, if you're wanting to shoot even par, at least for me, Master difficulty is the way to go. It is very unforgiving. The swing plane is very unforgiving, especially with this driver that I have. The tempo is very unforgiving. It is just an overall tough difficulty. And we're just at Master. After all of the rounds, and I would say I'd probably played the most rounds under Master difficulty, I think I broke even or better 4 times, maybe. It is a very difficult thing to get used to. Especially with like later points that I go over with the swing plane and the tempo. It is a very good challenge. Now, give me more time with the game, maybe like another 20-30 hours into the game. I can probably eventually get everything dialed in with what I need with tempo and with my swing plane. But as of right now, and the time that I've put into the game already, Master Clubs is no walk in the park. Which means Legend difficulty is my pain. You have hardly any wiggle room. This is what you play when you want, I would say, the most true to life for most of us. The most true to life round of golf. One bad swing can change the course of a round, just like it can in real life, and the Legend difficulty definitely makes that happen if you use it. I did break even. It was actually a 1 under. I did break a 1 under on Legend swing difficulty once. I probably played close to 9 rounds. For the most part, I shot between a +6 and a +15 on Legend difficulty. It just depended on the course I was playing and what happened during the round. I mean, there's times that I put it into the water, and then after I put it into the water, put it into a sand trap, and then after a sand trap, went straight back into a sand trap, and then 3-putted for an 8. It's just punishing. If you are not perfect in your execution completely, the ball can go anywhere. Like that. Right there, I push it, it goes fast, so it will come back, but I did push it. If I would have got a slow there, this ball's gone. Because the further you get away from that center, the more of a hook or slice you get with your tempo. It's not like I got a fast, so it's always going to do this. I got a fast, very fast, it's always going to do this. The further you get away from the center with your tempo, the more of a hook or a slice, or the more of a distance reduction you're going to get, especially with slows, are going to happen. So it is very key to get as close as you can, especially when it comes to your tempo. So right there, we barely fasted it, kind of pushed it a little bit, so it ended up going pretty straight. If you do something like that, you know, I barely fasted it. I still got a fast. I didn't get a perfect, but because I barely fasted it, I still hit a pretty fairly straight shot. Now, if I get a very fast like that, not only new animation, I don't know if you guys have seen that yet, but a new animation for a very fast, I hooked it a ton. It was a very bad hook. There's a slightly less fast, and as you can see, didn't hook as much, but still hooked quite a bit. Got a little bit more distance out of it because I didn't put a lot of that distance into the hook. Everything is very scaled in. On 2019, if you got like a fast, you could almost guarantee that it was going to do one thing. That's why you saw a lot of people, especially on the tours, you know, aim a little bit to the right if you're right-handed. Aim a little bit to the right, get a fast, and just hook it right back into the fairway and get that additional distance that you would get from doing that. You saw a lot of people on the tours do that. This year, you can't just go for your singular fast because every fast is different in this game. So it's a lot harder to dial everything in. But Legend difficulty is pretty crazy. And I could see a lot of the true Sim Tour people using it because it's probably going to give you the most realistic scores out of all of the difficulties for most of us. I mean, some people can go out and shoot an even par out on the golf course. It is very unforgiving and very difficult. And I don't know. I kind of love it, honestly. I do. If you could get Legend dialed in, you're an absolute freak at this game, and that's going to be my goal, is to dial Legend difficulty in. Now, going over just kind of everything else. Swing timing, you always want to have that on. That's the tempo. If you have it off, you can just disable tempo altogether. Distance control meter is the bar at the bottom where you can control the power that you put into the shot. I would say leave it on just when you're first starting to learn swing mechanics, but then once you are looking for a challenge, turn it off, because when you turn it off, it really becomes kind of a different game. Distance control assist, pretty much that means it doesn't allow you to overswing. I've been playing with it off. Putt preview, you know, you can do unlimited, you can do 0. That's kind of self-explanatory. Course yardage, I actually kind of like book only. The on for course yardage is good because it displays all of the distances and everything. But when you use the book, I can't show it right now. But it's the kind of the overview. The book only distances is actually kind of neat. It kind of serves as, like, if you had a rangefinder out on the course, from your ball, you can actually rangefinder using the book only, using the overview of where you want to shoot or your distance to the flag or something like that. It's actually kind of cool. And the book in general, I mean, I'm gonna go jump into a round real quick, and I want to show you guys. So this is the book right here, and when it says book only for yardages, this is what you're getting. So before, in 2019, you'd always have to know, you know, where you're hitting. You would always have to play the course over and over and over and over again under different conditions to know exactly, like, if I were to hit it here, this is where I would get if I wanted to bring a pitching wedge in, or a sand wedge, a gap wedge, whatever you would want to do. In this, with this book only, you can actually dial everything in. But let's say I was to actually hit this 307. If I hit this 307, I know to the hole, I'm going to have to hit it buck 55 to the hole. So I need a buck 43 in to get a nice little, like, 4-yard roll up. Like, you can actually, like, dial everything in. It will tell you how far you have to go. Anywhere that you put this on the course. I mean, you could put it over here if you really wanted to. You could put it in anywhere. Do you need to see how far it is to this bunker? You can do that. It's 117 yards to the bunker. You can do that right here. The only thing I would like to see is elevation back. We don't have that, which is kind of a bummer. So you kind of have to know elevation, but you can get elevation on your marker. So that might not be a big thing. I would like to see elevation. Maybe you can turn it off, but I would like to see elevation in this book. And right now we just don't have it. But that's the book, the yardage book, and it's a very, very, very awesome tool, and I really like what the changes that they made with this. But back in here, you know, your Pro Vision, again, that adds everything up for you or subtracts elevation, whatever you need to do. That just gives you exactly where your ball's going to go. So if you want to just go out and shoot around and not have to worry about it, you can use all of this. I also found a very nice use for this, is to dial in your yardages for your true shot. So if you're trying to get a yardage book around for like a 7-iron, like this is going to go a buck 53 straight up. But if I loft it fully up, it's actually a buck 44. If I do this, it brings it back to a buck 43. I did confirm that with this, it's not exact. It is an estimate. They can't give real time with spin just because of what you're hitting into. But if you want to get, you know, your yardage book going for your loft, you can actually use that Pro Vision to do it, and it saves you a ton of time in getting your clubs dialed in for yardage. If you have like a yardage sheet for each club dependent on loft, like I know some people do, you can use that Pro Vision and you can figure it up right now. What's going to happen when I loft it? What's going to happen when I de-loft it? you can use this to find that out. So it's a great tool to use for people who are new to the game and just want to go out and shoot around, but it's also a good tool to use for people who want to dial in all of their clubs that they're using. Then you got your scout camera. You know, you have it on or UI off, which it won't give you the circle, it just zooms you out, and then off for everybody who likes to play just from the tee box or from wherever their golfer is. You got your line green grids, pin preference, those are all the same. I did find out that having the pin in does not give you a leg up on having it out. It's just for a preference, period. And that's all. You have your aim marker, again, where it's just distance and elevation with it on. Remove distance and elevation from it, and it just gives you a marker if you just want to know, where you're aiming. And then off. You have your wind display, and you have your distance display on whichever you'd like to do. For me, I've been playing on Masters. I've been doing a mixture of difficulty, but I've been playing on Master difficulty. I drop it down to a Pro difficulty. If I need to boost up my confidence and go out and shoot around under par, I usually turn it on to the Pro difficulty. That's not saying I get under par every time I shoot pros. There has been times where I've just had bad rounds. Tempo's been off a little bit, and I shoot an even par or worse. But for the most part, at this point in time, with Pro difficulty, I can shoot under par pretty consistently. Not to the tune of, 14, 15 under, like I can sometimes do in 2019. But given some more time, I could probably get to that point again. But that's difficulty. Everything you can change. You can change it all. People have also asked about the display and HUD. You can turn all of it on and off as well. You can do whatever you would like. You can offset it. You can turn off ball trail, in-game help, the challenge messages that come up, the club carousel, which is when you're changing clubs. You can turn that off if you'd like. Everything on the HUD, you can either turn on, fade, or off. You can do it all. You also have your cameras and presentation. So people asked if you could turn off follow camera. Yep, you can. If you want to just stay back behind your golfer, you can turn off follow camera. The approach and putting cameras back too. Just found out that you can actually turn this on and really line up putts on the green. You can look at it from all angles and everything. Never knew that you could do that with this camera. You can also lock it in and putt from that position. Again, never knew that. Just found that out. But if you don't like the auto insta replays, turn them off. You don't like the PGA Tour Pro highlights in career mode, turn them off. Don't like the pre-shot animations, because now they give you these little pre-shot animations as if you're approaching the ball as your golfer. Don't like them, turn them off. You want to set all of your how you address the ball at tee in general and at the green. You can do all of that here. Everything is completely customizable for the experience that you want. Whatever you want, you set it. And that's difficulty 101 right there for you. It is great. The amount of customization that they've done to it is phenomenal. I really think that they knocked it out of the park. You can choose exactly how you want to play this game. Exactly how you want to play this game. And when it comes to societies or online matchmaking, things of that nature, the person creating the match or the society can set all of that as well. They choose how they want it to be played. There's also another option, especially when you're doing matchmaking, things of that nature. There's an option where you can set it to open. So, let's say you're setting up something with your buds. They like using the distance control meter. You don't. You like the challenge of doing it. Like if you're doing a private match or if you're doing societies, there's another option between on, putting only, percentage only, and off. You can put it to open so that anybody can play with whatever setting they have. So you choose how you want to play the game. You choose how you want to play the game with your friends. You choose how you want to play the game in societies. You have that option to go through and set things to open, set it to on, off, whatever you would like, whatever swing difficulty you would like. You have all of the power to play the game as you would like. So now to go over the meat and potatoes. That is 2K21. We'll start with the swing plane. The swing plane is the vertical line on the feedback to the right. So in 2019, you'd get these really weird happenings where you would, pull back on your stick straight, kind of get about 3/4 of the way straight and maybe flick it left a little bit. and doing that, and the ball would like shoot to the right because you started your backswing to the right. You always got these weird outcomes for what happened to your swing plane tied to the outcome of what happened to the ball. In this iteration, everything is 1-to-1. Every single thing. You start it to the right and finish it a little to the right, you're going to push the ball. You start it to the right and you flick it up to the left a little too far, you're going to pull the ball. Everything is a 1-to-1 representation of what your line does. So here, you're going to hit it off to the right. Even had a little bit of a flick back to the middle, so I kind of got a little bit of a draw to it almost right there. Everything you do, it is a 1-to-1 representation of what you hit. And because the bar, especially like Pro, Master, Legend, is so small, that's where you run into trouble with getting that perfect swing. When the bar gets smaller, it's harder to make those perfect shots. So you have to be on your game at all times. That's why I really enjoy the difficulty that they've done. But the swing plane is much more improved. It is a 1-to-1 complete representation. Over the hours I played, I never saw an outcome that didn't match what I did on the stick. Like in 2019, you would sometimes have really weird outcomes for what the feedback was showing. In this iteration, I have not seen that once. And I've touched on it a few times, but just tempo overall is much more dialed in. Going back to 2019, I found that we have been spoiled with tempo. The bar set for tempo, it was just extremely big, and it made it pretty easy to get perfects down once you got them down and knew what you had to do. There was no penalty for slight deviation. I always thought that I had the same swing every single time, and I think it was just because 2019 was a little more forgiving. Tempo in this game is a lot harder. No more backswing tempo. The only tempo you have is your downswing, so you can pull it back super fast and finish, and get your perfect swing. Or if you want, you can pull the club back super slow too. I can pull it back. Hang on, let me try to get as slow as I possibly can. It's tied. The tempo is tied to only you bringing the stick back up. There is no backswing tempo whatsoever. So you can do it at your own pace to get your tempo dialed in. On Pro Cubs, like I said, I can usually I do pretty good to keep it at least close to center with your tempo. The Pro Clubs, I keep saying Pro Clubs. The Pro difficulty, I can keep it pretty close to center, and it doesn't punish me. It doesn't punish me as much because you have that extra room to miss. When you go up to Master and Legend, though, like that shot right there on Master or Legend, that would have been a huge, not a huge, but a pretty fairly big slice, just because that margin of error is so much smaller. So that's what makes those a lot more fun. But tempo overall is much better and is much more dialed in for this iteration, which is going to make a lot more realistic scores, I do believe. More realistic scores. It's going to be a lot harder to hit those 20 under rounds when you're playing on Legend difficulty, I'll tell you that right now. But everything is quite dialed in with tempo. And like I said before, just the overall like 1-to-1 nature of it, like fasting it a little bit faster gives you more hook. Slowing it gives you more slice and takes away distance. The slower you go, the more distance you lose and the more of a slice you get. It's not just a one outcome kind of situation. You can have multiple outcomes dependent on the swing plane and the tempo. Everything is just much more dialed in. Which brings me to swing calibration. So some of you saw what I said was swing calibration in the first look preview video I did. I've had some time to do swing calibration. Swing calibration, I don't want to do it because I have a pretty good swing calibration right now. But swing calibration, you hit it, you go in, it gives you 10 shots. You do 10 full powered shots, and you want to stay as consistent as you possibly can. Like, let's say you just barely fast, and you do that 6, 7, 8 times, however many times you do that exact one. It'll give an average of where your fast is, and that fast will then become a perfect for you. So what I started to do was every time I loaded the game, I'd come in and do a swing calibration, and it would work for you know, a couple of rounds. I'd still have you know, your fasts and your slows, just because of how difficult the game is. You're not going to be perfect every time. It's going to be so hard to get the perfect swing every single time, like it was in 2019. Because in 2019 it was cakewalk. I mean, on PlayStation, I got to the point where probably 98, 99% of my swings were perfect. That's just not going to be the case this year. It just isn't. Even I think when people get everything dialed in, it is so specific a region and so easy to miss that region, especially on higher difficulties, that you're always going to have some bad shots during a round. But the swing calibration, I was most worried about the swing calibration being able to be exploited, you know, constantly coming in and just calibrating your swing over and over and over again. And while, you know, it may work if you want to calibrate your swing every 2 holes, I don't know why you would do that. You know, maybe it would work, but the swing changes every once in a while you're out playing your course. You just kind of have to correct for it as you go. But I didn't find it too exploity. I would just come in, calibrate my swing for the day. You know, maybe I'm tired. It's the morning, and I'm just a little overall slower. Just haven't got my coffee in me yet or something. I'd come in, calibrate my swing, and play a few rounds and be fine. Shoot some good rounds. I'm pro. Master and Legend, different story. You can calibrate your swing, but I mean, being slightly off could lead to a hook into the woods, so that's a little bit different. But I really enjoy the swing calibration, and I do personally believe that that's going to, with all of the other changes, making everything more one-to-one, I think that that's going to eliminate that discrepancy that we had between the consoles, because everybody's swing is going to be their swing, not what the game has dictated is the perfect swing. It is your swing, your personal swing on the stick. So I think that's going to eliminate a lot of the discrepancy, especially across consoles, when it comes to the TGC Tours. It is a great addition to the game, and it has worked for me quite well, and I enjoy that addition very, very much. All right, I turned the difficulty down for this just because I want to just show you the visualization of this. This is the true shot. I went over it momentarily, just kind of give you a brief overview of it. True shot is probably one of the best additions that PGA Tour has ever had. The amount of things that you can do with True Shot is quite astonishing. You want a little bit of a stinger shot? You can do that. If you want a stinger, it's going to roll. You can get the thing to roll and get a really shallow stinger shot. You can make whatever shot you would like. I mean, it's really, you can dial in so much with this game. Do you want to hit the ball up into the wind? You can do that. I actually did it a couple of times. Like, I had a 15-mile-an-hour wind in my back. So what I did is I gave it a little bit more roll. I hit it up into the wind, and the wind just carried it even further than what it would have been if I were to just hit it normally. There's so many things that you can do with the True Shot. It's just phenomenal. And also, one thing that I like, and some people might not like it because they liked the kind of the skill gap to it. When you want to draw a ball in, before in 2019, you would put draw on, but then you'd actually have to like turn your character to match the draw. I never liked that because when it comes to draw and fade, you keep the club pointed at your target where you're wanting to hit, and you move your your feet where you're aiming the ball. You kind of like turn your body, but keep the club face, you know, in a very simplistic way. This is a very simplistic way of describing this, but you know, you point your club face where you want to go, and you point your feet where you want the ball to go to start, ball to start. So like with this, they actually do it. You keep the club turned towards your target, and you turn your body for where you want the ball to start, club pointed where you want the ball to finish. It does make this overall easier to draw and fade, but I think this is the best way to implement draw and fade, other than you know, making you actually do it on your swing path. I was actually kind of always a fan of that, because that added a whole nother level of skill gap to it. But if I had to choose between, you know, doing this and adding fade onto a ball and then actually have to physically turn my character, I would choose this any day of the week. That's me personally. Some people might not agree with me, and that's fine. We all have opinions, but I like what they did with this and the choice that they made to implement this over the current system that they have in 2019. But True Shot is great, and it's going to be used in a lot of ways to dial in an exact shot that you want. You know, like you wanna take the loft away some to get under some wind, but you definitely want to have the ball stop. I mean, you can do that. There are so many options with the True Shot. It takes a little while to get used to, but in the end, I think this is one of the greatest additions that they've put to the game. And I mean, branching right off of that, there's spin rates. I know a lot of people wanted you to be able to spin the club. You can absolutely spin the ball. Just watch really any of the videos of people going in and spinning the ball. You can do it. You can spin out a 5-iron if you really want to. Like here, we'll do this. Hopefully I can get a perfect tempo. Okay, let's try it. So this is a 5-iron. We lofted it up, put max spin on it, and we got it to stop. 4 yards carry is what we got out of a 5-iron. You can't stick it, but a 5-iron's, I mean, at least I struggle with sticking a 5-iron. You want to go into, you know, pitching wedge? Let's spin a pitching wedge. Faceted, of course. Let's spin a pitching wedge. Three yards carry out. And this is into a fairway, by the way. We're not even talking about into a green. I could make a whole nother video. Maybe I will make a whole nother video of me just hitting shots into the practice green back here. Because spin rates are back. You can spin the club. You can spin it out of pitches. You can spin it out of full shots, flop shots, splash shots, whatever you'd like to do. You can spin the ball. Now, I know some people have said, like, why are you getting excited for spinning the ball? You were able to do that in Tiger Woods 08 or whatever. Sure, you did. I feel like the realism in this for spin rates is actually pretty good. And also, I put 600 hours into Golf Club 2019. You know what you couldn't do in that game? You couldn't spin the ball at all. Sometimes you could. Maybe if you got lucky and you're going into the wind and you fully loft it and hit a perfect shot, you could. For the most part, though, in 2019, spin rates were very low. So let me have nice things. And spin rates in this game are nice things. They did an excellent job with it. An excellent job with it. When it comes to spin rates, too, another thing, if you overpower a shot, if you get 102 power, 103 power, it actually spins it more. You'll get the extra distance, but you'll actually spin it more. If you slow it, you spin it even more. If you fast it, you lose that spin, which is kind of similar to how it was in 2019. You usually got more roll out of a fast and less roll out of a slow. That same thing has happened here, except with slows, you're going to lose distance. So if you really want to spin it, you can maybe aim a little short or aim a little long, sorry. Add a ton of spin using True Shot and then overpower it and slow it, and that would give you your maximum spin rate for that club. But True Shot, spin rates, all of it, it's great. I really enjoy this mechanic of the game. Next up, we have partial shots, and I like partial shots a ton. And once you get everything dialed in, it's going to be a lot of fun. You can do whatever you would like with partial shots, whatever hit you would like to do. It's really easy. Like, there's some par 4s on some courses where 3 wood, 2 wood didn't quite get there, but a driver did. But if you hit a driver, you know, you'd be screwed because you'd just be flying the green. With partial shots, I mean, you can really dial in however you would like to do. And the thing with partial shots is you can actually pull the club back slower. The closer you are on your partial shot, the slower the backswing is, to allow you to dial that in even more. So you can pull this back and swing it. This is going to, out on the course, be spectacular, especially when it comes to like pitches, chips, things of that nature. Doing partial chips is going to be so much easier this year. Of course, you have to get everything else right, tempo included, which is probably one of the most difficult changes. So you still have to dial that in, but when it actually comes to hitting a percentage on a partial shot, it is a lot easier to hit that percentage and hit a good swing on it as well. So the addition of partial shots into the game, spectacular. The implementation of the power bar that you're doing kind of makes it sky is the limit kind of scenario for where you're hitting out on the golf course. So one thing that I actually did not like at first, but it has absolutely grown on me, is the overall control scheme. I don't know if I've talked about the control scheme at all. Some things stay the same. You know, your yard book, but I'm on the course, is still B. You know, zooming in is Y. After that, though, it's kind of different. LB is now, to bring that up, RB is to reset your shot. And I'll go over feedback I have for that. But RB is to reset your shot. Your D-pad now is used to cycle through clubs. And left and right on the D-pad is to cycle through the different shot selection. I used to use the D-pad to dial in distance. But now you have to use the left stick. At first, I don't know why, I just didn't like it at first. But now that I've used it more, I feel like they've actually made all of the buttons on the controller make more sense. They've also added in, if you don't want to cycle through the cameras to get to an overhead position, which a lot of the times I would do, especially if I was in brush or something like that, left trigger now puts you right there, and you can actually hit from it too. So you just hold left trigger, hit from it. And it locks in the camera position after you hit it, so you see where the ball lands from that overhead position if you want to stay behind golfer and not have follow cam. Overall, I just think all of the buttons have just been made better. Better use of them. It took time to get used to. I would say I probably hated the control scheme. I actually probably hated the control scheme for the first probably 12 hours I played the game, just because 2019 is so ingrained into me. But the more I played with it, the more I actually liked the control scheme altogether. Next up, I want to go over the golf bag. So when they first announced this, and when I first even loaded it up, I was actually a little worried adding attributes to golf clubs and having those attributes go over all modes, because I'm a big TGC Tours guy. Like, I play a lot of online societies, so having golf bags and having attributes tied to them, I was pretty worried. But I feel like they've done a very good job at horizontally balancing, and what I mean by that is, sure, you can take some extra distance. If you're playing on Masters or Legends, yeah, you can take some extra distance on this driver. This is the longest driver, by the way, 294 Bridgestone driver. This has the most distance, and yeah, you can take that long distance. Forgiveness is terrible though. Your tempo is going to be all over the place, and sure, you can play for that, but you got to get your swing plane there too, especially if you're playing on tight fairways. This might not be the best club of choice. I've tested out 3 sets for every single type of club: driver, woods, hybrids, irons, wedges. And I can say that over the course of all of the testing, my score didn't really decrease or increase for all of the sets of clubs. I would say clubs for me were mainly used to dial in a course, not dial in my game. Like if we had some really long par 5s on a course, you'd pull out this Bridgestone right here and get that 294 so that you could hit those par 5s. One thing, they did remove some clubs. They removed a 2-wood, 2-iron, 1-iron, I think a 6 hybrid, 7 hybrid are the clubs that they removed from the game. At first, because I'm a huge 2-wood and 2-iron guy, at first I was kind of bummed about it. But once you see what you can do with your bag, like I can hit a driver 294 now. I'm not tethered to 269 like I was in 2019. I can hit this thing 294. I don't need a 2-wood anymore. And 2-wood, 2-iron, 1-iron are probably one of the least used clubs out of all clubs in a golf bag, just the general population of golfers. Now, there are some drawbacks, you know, a wood, because you can replace a 2-iron with a 5-wood. But a 2-iron is going to pull a ball out of a rough a lot different than a 5-wood. So that's gonna have to take some dialing in and getting used to. I would say that's probably the only drawback. For the most part, though, I don't miss the 2-wood and 2-iron anymore at all. Now that I've gotten clubs that I can dial in a course with, don't miss them at all. Now I do want to just go over briefly like what each of these attributes are. So like let's take some irons for example. Distance is exactly that, how much distance you have out of the club. Shot shaping is the amount of draw and fade that you can do. And I found out shot shaping is the amount of spin you can put on the ball as well. So the more shot shaping you have on a specific club, iron, wedge, whatever it may be, the more spin you can put on that ball. Now, doing shot shaping up, you're going to lose things in other categories. So like if you get shot shaping up, but you lose some forgiveness, if you fast that ball all the time, that spin isn't going to matter because you're fasting it and removing that spin from your shot. So there's some playing around. There's always a drawback to each of the clubs. Forgiveness is pretty much the forgiveness of your tempo bar at the top. So the more forgiveness you have, the easier it is to hit a perfect, and also the least amount of penalty you get for fasting or slowing. Most time though, giving forgiveness removes distance. So again, it's a push-pull relationship with whatever you'd like. Swing plane is the vertical line. So that is how much of a forgiveness level you have with the bar in the middle. Like maybe you can't really hit a straight ball. That's fine. You can come in here and get a club that has a really good swing plane rating. That way you can keep the ball straight while you work on other parts of your game. And also, you know, pushing and pulling, you have more forgiveness on that. You won't push it as much. You won't pull it as much. You can hit an overall straighter shot. Then finally, there's distance control. So when you're looking at a power bar and you see that white bar with the percentage that you're aiming for, the more distance control you have, the bigger that bar is. So that's used essentially to dial in partial shots even better. So if you're doing a lot of partial shots, working on a lot of partial shots, maybe, you know, you're around the green a lot, off the green, in the bunker, you know, in the rough, on the fringe, things of that nature, and you need better distance control because you're doing a lot of partial shots, either through a splash shot or flop shot or pitch, whatever it may be. If you're trying to recover, distance control is good to have on a club. And you have that for every single club. You have that push and pull. Everything can be unlocked as well. It's not hiding behind a paywall of any sort. I reached level 25 in 30 hours. I got to buy 3 sets of clubs, some 4 sets of clubs, and a putter, which doesn't give you any skill, but I just bought a putter because I liked the spider putter. So you'll be able to unlock things pretty fast. And in the end, you know what you want. You know what works for you, what kind of club you want. So you can unlock everything pretty fast. Some things are locked behind a level, your level. But again, it's because it's so horizontally balanced. At least I feel it's horizontally balanced. It's not locked behind this. Like maybe you want a forgiveness iron. You just have to play the game to get it. But you earn credits pretty quickly. You level up pretty quickly. You can unlock stuff pretty quickly. I also like the fact that you can do whatever you would like to do with your clubs. You want a specific 7-iron, you can go in here, You can pick a specific 7-iron to put in your bag. You can mix and match your bag however you would like to do it. This is the bag that I was using. I was trying to dial in distances to eliminate gaps as much as possible, and this is one of the best ways I found that I could do that. It's a really strange bag, probably the weirdest bag I've ever seen, but it works good for distancing. I'm not in between clubs a lot. I don't have a lot of wiggle room close to the green. I do find myself, getting into a lot of weird partial shots around the green. If I miss the green, don't get my green in regulation. But for overall on the course, it's really, really, really dialed in bag when it comes to gaps and distance. So just the overall customization just adds a whole nother level to the game. And so far, I mean, like I said, 30 hours of playing. I don't see any exploits, not yet. I mean, I haven't found any exploits. Everybody plays different. Everybody plays a bag different. Everybody's going to be looking for different things. We're going to have so many different bags of people playing. We might have some like meta bag builds, I think it's going to be awesome, especially if they're looking to add new equipment as post-launch. I think this has the potential to be just a lot of fun overall. One more thing while we're at this screen, 30 hours of gameplay, handicap, +4. Now, I played a lot of pro rounds, by the way. A lot of people who played 2019 will probably know. If you went on and did 30 hours of Golf Club 2019, you could probably get a handicap of +30. I'm not gonna say right now that handicap is fixed. I am not gonna say that because I don't want to jinx it. But as of right now, handicap rating's looking pretty good. 30 hours of gameplay, getting a 4-1 handicap. That's pretty good. We have to wait and see. Once we get more user-created courses, if it's handicap rated, what's that gonna do to your handicap rating? We have to wait and see. But that's a nice sign. Another thing about golf clubs, when you buy them, you don't just get a specific club, you get the entire set. So if you buy these for $900, you get every single iron that is in it. Every single one. So for this set, it's 3 through 9. You get every single set for that price. Not that you're buying a single club for $900. So I just want to make that very clear to people as well. Also, chipping range and putting range is back. You can also auto mulligan if you'd like. So you'd always go back to the same spot. And you can, again, pick anywhere on the course you would like to hit a shot from. So this is all here again. One thing that I wanted to show you why I came in here, and one thing I very much like, is putting from fringe. So, or fairway even. And any like flat, almost perfect 100% surface for lie, the putting off the fringe and fairway is so much better this year. Last year, when you tried to putt from the fairway or the fringe, you'd get this weird, like the ball would get held a bunch. Sometimes it'd come off really strange. You kind of had like a 50-50 coin flip on whether this ball was going to get through at what you're trying to do. That is pretty much eliminated this year. I mean it. For real, it's almost 100% eliminated. Hitting from the fringe and the fairway is actually something that you can do quite consistently now. In 2019, hitting from the fairway, you hardly ever did that. There was no point in hitting from the fairway ever because you never knew how it was going to come off from the fairway onto the green. Even hitting out of, like a light rough isn't even as bad as it was. You would always get this weird like hang on the ball hitting out of light rough, where it wasn't that much of light rough, but it would still grab it, like really, really badly grab it. You don't have to worry about that this year. You can actually hit out of light rough. Yes, it's going to, remove some distance. Of course, you're hitting it out of light rough. But you can hit out a light rough a lot easier and a lot better this year, and it's actually a viable option around the green. Here, let me go and actually hit light rough that isn't downhill. Let's go hit from... We'll do it right here. We'll hit out a light rough, and we'll hit her up to this guy up here. There we go. A little bit of an uphill putt, too. So let's aim for an uphill putt. And you can actually dig it out of that rough. You can dig it right on out. Pretty easily. Let's actually shoot like we want to make this. There you go. I just wanted to show you, it's a very small thing, but it's something that's great. Also, they made it so divots are repaired when you land on the green. Divots are repaired. Another small thing, but divots are repaired. If you hit it into a bunker, your actual like ball trail into the bunker, that stays as well. I thought that was a nice touch. Just like, there's little things that I've found. The divot repair was a big thing of me because I hated seeing a divot constantly. When I landed on the green, you'd see that divot the entire time you're on a green. Maybe a stupid thing to get upset about, but I don't know. It was just something that I just didn't really enjoy. And they fixed it. They made it so that divots are repaired now. But putting from fairway, light rough, fringe, is just miles better this year. And times where you had to really partial chip something, you can actually just putt that thing now. Especially if your putter's on fire, which mine was a lot in 2019. Yeah, just another option, putting from fairway. All right, so that's the overall view of game mechanics. Game mechanics that I like. There were also some detractors that I said in there, but those are overall game mechanics that I like. I mean, HB Studios has really overhauled the system. It took me a second just to process everything when I first loaded in and was getting used to the game mechanics and just all of the different things that they've implemented, but they have done a great job overall with the game mechanics to make this game play better than it ever has, period. Hands down. 30 hours, this game it plays the best that it has. But now let's move on to some things that I have feedback for, don't quite like, kind of on the fence about, and let's just kind of go over all of those that I have as well. This is just overall feedback that I'd like to do. What I started to do, I turned off haptic feedback. I played without the power bar. When you go into a practice swing, watch under the feedback on the right when you do a practice swing. You see how that came up white saying 37 power, and it's white every time? Watch what happens when I get in the gray. Gray, 30. Gray, 30. Gray, 32. Now watch when I do red. 21. 18, 17. So what I was doing, and it actually worked really well, I actually had to take practice swings out when I was playing on the course. The power was off, haptic feedback was off, everything was off, and I would line up my shot and where I want it to go. So let's say I wanted to make a putt of 13. I'd sit there and practice. White, 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 okay? And then I'd address the ball and hit that exact shot. And it was actually kind of, I mean, it was almost like it was real life. I was taking, you know, my practice swings before I actually addressed the ball and shot. And I actually liked that a lot, honestly. And it's not even exploitable because when you're on, you know, the harder difficulties, that white bar is extremely small. And 2% in power on a putter can mean everything. It can mean everything. Two percentage points could be a make or a miss quite easily in this game. The bit of feedback that I have, though, is I want that feedback in a practice swing to stay up a little bit longer. Like, you'll notice when I'm doing my practice swings here, it disappears pretty quickly. If that could just stay up a little bit longer, I'd actually really like that. Especially for, like, longer putts. It disappears almost instantaneously, I would say. So if it stayed up just a little bit longer, maybe make it stay up until I do another practice swing. Like that, you can hardly even see it. A bit of feedback would be to keep that up a little bit longer. I think it's a really cool feature in the practice swing to look at the feedback, then address the ball and hit it on the putting. It helped me with my putter a lot, but I would say making that last a little bit longer would be very nice. All right, now I want to get into something that I probably have, I would say, the most feedback about, and that is the use of splash and flop shots. Now, first, I'd like to say that the addition of the splash shot is actually really nice, especially coming out of bunkers. It actually looks really good coming out of bunkers when used properly, and you can really spin the ball nicely. Coming out of a bunker now, you get a nice little pop-up, and it just drops down onto the green. I really like splash shots a lot in this game. The one problem that I have, though, is that splash shots can be used anywhere on the course, not just from the bunker. You can use it anywhere, and what that's done is it's kind of given you this a little bit of an easy way to recover when you get off the green. So before, in 2019, you had to use flop shots. And flop shots, for me in 2019 at least, were kind of like your get out of jail free card. If you got within 42 yards with a flop shot, you could usually bury the thing pretty close to the hole. Now, what has happened is splash shots have kind of become the new flop shot, as the distance is similar to what flop shots were in 2019. Now, I have a little bit of a longer wedge right now. I'm using longer distanced wedges, so the distance is a little longer than you'd probably normally see. But you can splash with these wedges at least from 26, 31, 36, and 42 on splash shots. And then once you get out of that range, instead of having to move to a pitch, you can actually just move over to a flop shot. And from 42, it goes to 45, 49, 52, and 56. So from 26 to 56, you kind of have a flop shot, because a splash shot's pretty similar to a flop shot, and then the flop shot's distances have been increased across the board. Now, in 2019, I didn't like how long flop shots were. When I think flop shot, I think mainly anywhere between 10 and maybe 25 yards is what you're going to be hitting a flop shot at. Anything over that, more than likely you're just going to pitch it, unless you're going for a really crazy flop shot. I think maybe a 40-plus yard flop shot. I don't know how many times that actually happens, like on the tours. I'm sure it's not that many times, and when it does, Phil Mickelson does it. But for this game, flop shots, at least with these wedges, again, they are a little longer. I can flop from 45 to 56. What I think a nice middle ground would be for this would be splash shots only can be used from the bunker. Mainly that's where you're going to be using a splash shot from, is from the bunker. With flop shots, if you can't change the distance to be less, and I would like to see it be less, you know, even with splash shots, like even making splash shots a little less would be great too. With flop shots though, if you can't make them a little less, like the 15 to 30 range, maybe just make it so that, you know, you keep your flop shot where it is here, 45 yards, but it forces you into doing partial shots. You know, so you have that skill where splash shots only used from bunker. When you get off the green, you have to use like a partial shot lob wedge. That would get the skill level up across the board for when you knock your ball off the green and you have to recover. As it sits now, the way that it is, and how it's, I don't want to say easy, you still have to execute the shot, but it's not that hard to execute like a partial swing splash shot. You can kind of get away with it, honestly. So the way it sits now, you can kind of recover pretty easily overall when you get in trouble off the green. And the last piece of feedback that I have has to do with the putting. Now, I am going to say putting overall has been improved upon so much that playing on the greens is actually a ton of fun. In 2019, I think that the putting had quite a few problems that kind of took away from the overall game that was the Golf Club 2019. There were a bunch of different things. There was balls would sometimes float above the ground, or what seemed to be floating above the ground, like an ice skate kind of scenario where the ball would just stay straight, even on like steep slopes. It would stay straight for like 15 feet, and then it would look like it dropped down, and then it would start to break. So the ball wasn't very reactive to how the greens were actually playing. In this game, they have truly made the ball react to the green so much better. So something like this putt right here, in 2019, you could kind of just beat through the initial first 9 feet of this break. Like, I would hit it along here. You wouldn't get hardly any break along this green in 2019. You could kind of you know, hit through it. And then once you got about halfway through this putt, then it would start to break. In 2K21, the ball reacts to the green. It reacts to slope at your feet a lot better. Just everything is better about the rollout of the ball on the greens in 2K21. 2019 also had a problem with you being able to just slam a ball into a hole. Anything under, you know, 15 feet, you could really just rear back and hit the ball right at the cup. And the cup was pretty forgiving. You could just hit it right at it. That was it. It'd go in the hole pretty easily. The cup in 2K21 is a lot less forgiving. You can no longer smash the ball into the cup. It skips over it. It lips out a lot more. It does a lot of other things that just make it overall more reactive to the swing that you're doing. In 2K21, the cup is a lot less forgiving. You have to have a little bit more finesse on the ball in order to get the ball to roll in. I've also noticed that there's a lot more like actual lip outs instead of the ball just kind of like grazing the hole and moving around it, kind of almost seeming like it's coasting over it. In 2K21, the ball will actually roll along the lip and lip out, or roll along the lip and do like a complete toilet bowl and come back into the hole. Just the overall ball reaction to everything on the green is just miles better than 2019. One thing that I have feedback on, and you know, maybe with this I just need to practice with it more. That is definitely always the case. But I feel like overall the swing speed of the putter is a little on the too fast side. With most people, you know, you're gonna pull the stick straight back and then, you know, push it forward to complete your swing. And to make this small, like 6-footer, that is on top of you extremely fast. Now, on one hand, it's great. It does add to the difficulty of the putt in general. But on the other hand, it is so quick that it kind of can lead to a little bit of a twitchy feedback where you're pulling it back straight and slamming it forward. Not slamming it forward, but you're pulling it back straight and pushing it forward so quickly that your line will get really all over the place just because of how fast it is. Now, I was told to pull the stick back a little slower, and with practice, I'm sure I could get a lot better at it, but a lot of the times when I'm pulling it back slower, I really miss it. Your natural reaction is to pull it back quickly and to push it forward quickly. And pulling it back slow, sometimes I get into like scenarios like that where I think I'm pulling it back straight, but I'm actually pulling it back to the right a ton. I don't know. It probably just comes down to me just practicing more, but I think at least maybe for the first 7-8 feet on the putting surface, you know, make that a niche that if I'm doing something this short, maybe make it so it's not as fast. You know, you're making a more fluid swing on the shorter putts. When you get, you know, to the longer ones, you know, to keep the difficulty up, yeah, you could definitely, you know, speed it up. Because when you're making a putt that's, at least for me, when I'm making a putt that's like 40, 50 feet, I pull my club back pretty quickly and I get the ball out fairly quickly as well. That's just my tempo on the putting surface. But when it comes to those shorter ones, I'm a little bit more controlled. I'm a little bit slower on my swing. So it may be nice to make, you know, inside 10 feet, just a little slower, like 10% slower on the backswing. And then maybe ramp it up, you know, anything past that. Or just make the entire swing 10% slower. I think that would definitely alleviate a lot of problems that I've had with putting. Because it seems that I have less control over the putter. It's just a little bit more twitchy, especially from the shorter ranges. And I think just an overall slower swing speed, if not from within 10, just for the entire putter itself, would go a long ways in making you feel like you have more control over your putter. And honestly, that's really it. That's mechanics. I know that this probably turned into, like, how long have I been recording? Oh my gosh. Yeah, this probably turned into a pretty long video. There's a lot to go over with mechanics. There are things that I love about the mechanics. The overall difficulty has just been tuned to 1,000, and I absolutely love that. And again, these are all my opinions. I mean, not everybody's going to share my opinions, and that's fine. That's the great thing about opinions. But this is feedback that I want to give to the community to discuss. I think everybody should discuss it amongst each other. What are your thoughts? Please let me know. And this is also feedback, it's kind of like an open letter to the developers on feedback that I have for the game and the overall mechanics of the game. They have taken so much feedback from the community, and they have implemented so many things that people have asked for. When it comes to mechanics, I really do think overall they have absolutely knocked this out of the park. But overall, the way that the game plays on the course is phenomenal. I had to stop playing 2019 entirely. I went back and played around. Atrocious. Not atrocious. I got 600 hours out of that game. I love 2019. But once you play 2K21, you just can't go back to 2019. I just can't. The game just plays so much better than 2019. It's impossible to go back and play 2019 at all. So really, and I told all of the devs who stopped by my stream, I've told all of the devs and DMs and messages in Steam and everywhere, be proud of this game, because this is by far the best golf game you all have made, and it is without question. You went above and beyond the expectations that I had for this game, and I cannot wait for everybody to get their hands on it on the 21st of August. It's going to be a fun day. It is going to be a fun day for everybody. But after 32-ish hours of playing this game, it is definitely a winner. And that's my closing thoughts. That's my closing thoughts for 2K21. Take them as you will. Call me a shill. Whatever you want to do. I can handle it, or I can ignore you. Either way, thank you for stopping by and watching this. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as I had making it and talking about the game. If you did like it, make sure to leave a like on the video. Think about subscribing to the channel. Tons of 2K21 content coming. Tons of 2K21 content coming today, tomorrow. I mean, whatever day it is, it's going to be 2K21 content flowing up until launch, at launch, past launch, for the next year, 2 years, however long this game is in its cycle. I will be playing it. I played 2019 for 2 years straight, from the day it was released until today. I played 2019, and I will do the same with 2K21 because I am a fan. Thank you for watching, though. I greatly appreciate it. Have a great rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are in the world, and I will catch you on the next 2K21 video. Have a good one. Thanks again for watching. Deuces.